Today I'm going to show you how I smashed the very last of my scraps. With this Simple Stories 6x8 paper pad, I made this mini album. It's got the two cinch binding albums on the side. It's really cute. There's a video on it. I also made 3 of these traveler notebook style little books. And now I am left with all sorts of different size scraps. Hi everybody, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. I am part of the Paperstashsmash collab, where every month we try to attack our scraps and use what we have. Some months I show you the process from making large mini albums to small mini albums, and I have scraps left that I'll either toss because they're so small or just die cut them. But today I had a lot of paper left over from, actually it was 2 6x8 paper pads, plus I had several 12x12 from the same collection. I also had some stickers left. What I'm doing now is just going through what I have and sorting them. As you can see, I have a lot of long strips, thin and long strips. Probably could have utilized those better to take advantage of some card sketches, but I'm trying to do this card sketchless, if that's a word. So again, I'm just sorting through what I have, just seeing what I'm going to be able to use. I have a lot of scraps in this. Now, I've done a video before showing you how I make cards without card sketches. I just recently did a video where I made cards using card sketches, so I'm not opposed to card sketches, but sometimes it's hard to find exactly the right sketch. The first thing I do is, since I had some full 6x8 sheets, is I'm cutting them down to fit on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card. So I'm cutting them down to maybe 4 by 5 1/4. So I will just cut these down, and these will be the card bases. Of course, it's making more scraps, but you know, that's how it goes. Do I use every single scrap? No, I don't. At the end, I still have a couple that I'll probably save, because a lot of these Simple Stories 6x8 paper pads that I have are using a lot of the same colors. I had purchased 2 bundles of 15, I think it was 15, 6x8 paper pads from Simple Stories over during Black Friday. It was a fantastic deal. I think it was, I think it's maybe $30 for 15 6x8s. It could have been less, it could have been more. I mean, it was almost half a year ago. I don't remember. So anyhow, going through my scraps still, and I'm going to cut these down to make sure they'll fit on a card. So it, you know, a card being 5 1/2, I don't want anything that's 6 inches. And then I'm going to take all of my scraps and I'm going to put it on white cardstock. Now, you don't have to use white, but my card bases are going to be white, and so I like to have the matting the same color as my card bases. It doesn't have to be. It's just how I like it. To me, it makes everything look good together. It sort of pulls everything together. So this is why I save my white scraps when I'm making mini albums. I save all sizes of them because you never know when you're going to need it. And even if it's too small to add cardstock to, you can always use it to stamp a sentiment. I have a small pile of 1/2 inch by maybe 3 inches or 4 inches white card scraps that I use to stamp sentiments on. So anyhow, I'm going to continue putting all of these on my scraps, and then I'll cut them down. The next thing I'm going to do is organize all of my ephemera and whatever else I'm going to use to embellish or sentiments. So I have these trays that I think I got from Dollar Tree several years ago that I try to keep everything sorted. I've stamped a lot of thank yous and happy birthdays on different size scraps, just so I have an assortment. I've always saved some of my other color paper and stamp different things. I also in this case stamped some of these monsters that I think it was an Avery L uh, stamp that I had, and I colored them. I stamped them onto colored paper and then just quickly colored them. It's sort of a quick, cheater way of getting things colored. So I'm just going to go through everything I have, and then I'm going to get started. So I just start with card bases and start laying things out. Now I go as quick as I can because I don't want this to take a lot of time. Probably all told, this was about 2 hours worth of cutting, stamping, sketching. But as I said, I had a lot of pre stamped images and sentiments. So I just take a card base, I take a background, and I try to lay out one or two or three different size of my leftover squares and rectangles. I like this monster. I wanted it to coordinate, so I just took a piece of white cardstock, cut it out to cover my card base, and then added one of my plain, um, just plain paper and put it on there. I don't know if I like it. It really makes a rather small card, but once you put the focal point of the monster, I think it makes it go real well. So there, I like it. You'll find I use the monsters a lot. I think they were really bright and colorful and sort of went with this colorful collection. So again, I'm just taking my card base. I'll add a card front if I have it. You'll see what happens when I run out of my card fronts. I just start layering. Probably that green layer should have been a little bit big, a little bigger than what it is. But once you put that focal point, that cute little monster on there, then it works. And as you can see, I was playing around with putting the sentiment on the bottom, and I apologize that it's off screen. Sometimes you just get into it and just forget where I am. So I put that down at the bottom, and that works. I'll cut it down a little bit so it fits all the way across the card. I'm not trying to make my cards be works of art. I think that's the one thing. You have to sort of let go of the idea that each one is going to be a work of art. And you'll find some designs are going to be better than others. Now, there's nothing wrong with using card sketches, as I said. If you want to go and look at card sketches that sort of match with the shapes you have, there is nothing wrong with that. It'll help you if you're just starting out, or if you haven't made cards for a while. It sort of gets you in the groove of matching out different sizes. But I've been doing cards for a while. My main thing, of course, is making mini albums, but it doesn't mean that I don't have fun making cards. I also, it seems to be, need a lot of cards this time of year. I have lots of friends who have birthdays, and I do try to send out cards. Not every Etsy order, because I don't always have cards on hand, but sometimes I will add a thank you card to an Etsy order. It's just sort of a nice way to say thank you for placing your trust in me. So here I am cutting down some different papers, really having a challenge with this one. I mean, I like the pink. I really like that. But I'm just trying out all these different sketches. I really love this colorful flower with the yellow, the turquoise, and the little pink. I hate to cover it up. And unfortunately, I don't have flowers to coordinate. The flowers that I'm using are from a totally different collection. I think it might be a Paige Evans collection versus Simple Stories as the paper. But I think it works, once you put everything together. And it's a very simple card. I probably will make a couple more in this style before the day is done, just because it's easy and you get some bang for your buck. Now, another way that I use some scraps is I layer scraps, because once you put down that one layer, that 3-layer, 4-layer pink one on the right, and then I have the yellow polka dotted one on the left. Well, if you put it down, it sort of slopes down to the left. So you saw I put some scraps of cardstock on just to make it all the same level. It's a trick that card makers have been using for a while. I think Christine Marcotte is really well known for that. I stamped that "Have a Very Happy Birthday," but it just overpowered it. Probably if it wasn't the black ink, it would be a little better. Trying to figure out what will go with this. I'm having a hard time with this one. I really like that "Best Birthday Ever," and I end up with that. Sorry, my camera skipped because it just went fuzzy because I was recording for so long. Okay, here's my favorite pattern again. It's probably the one thing that I like most in this collection. In fact, this I think was from a 12 by 12 sheet. And I purchased it even before I had purchased this collection. All right, so I go back to that same one where I just have a single piece of ephemera, a focal point on there, and then put a sentiment on the bottom. I added it on a second layer just to add a little more interest. So this one, I've got the striped base, playing around with different colors. I like having them all sort of similar styles. There we go. Here's another monster card. Is it going to be a monster card? Boy, I was having a hard time. And here's another thing. If I feel like I spend too long on a card, I just put it aside. I might just take all of the elements and use it for something else. If it doesn't come together right away, I'm not going to force it. At this point, I think I'm going to try to use up all these monsters because these monsters are a great focal point and they sort of coordinate with everything on these cards. And I cut out and colored about 8 of them, so there may be more. I kept them again in that same color family with the turquoise and teal. All right, watch me have fun with this one because I don't like it. See, I really like that. Wishing you a very happy birthday. I like graphics. I like fonts. To me, it's fun to do something like that. Here, I'm just adding more layers. Really like that. Wishing you a very happy birthday. Okay, it's going to work. And add a monster, and we're done. Okay, got just a few more of the card bases left. After this, it gets a little harder. All right, I'm going to use this monster again. Gosh, aren't they cute? They are adorable monsters. And as I said before, these monsters were an Avery L stamp. I really liked the company, and I wish I purchased more stamps, but I don't. I may get maybe 3 or 4 stamp sets a year. I'm on the lookout. I'm waiting to have the Halloween stamps come out this year because I always like to get a new set of Halloween stamps to make cards for family and friends. But I guess the best thing I could have done was purchase more Avery L stamps to support the company. So let that be a lesson. If you like a certain company, let your money be where your mouth is. What's the saying? All right, anyhow. All right, let's see if I can do something with this happy birthday. And I'm going back to that not every card is going to be a masterpiece. That last happy birthday one was not my favorite, truth be told, but it worked. Now in this case, I cut the square of the yellow plaid so I could put some on the top and some on the bottom. You don't see that it doesn't go through, that it doesn't go all the way. And I put it aside because I can't figure out what to do with it. Let's start with something different. Let's use this one because that, again, is my favorite pattern. Here I'm grabbing some of my punches. I think the thank you needs to have an outline on it, so I grabbed a couple of different circle punches and tried to get the right size. Messing around with it, have a pink flower that works, and that's it. Again, it's not a masterpiece, but it's not bad, and I sort of like having the little leaf coming off of the bottom. All right, let's try with this pink. All right, The one on the right, I'm going to have a hard time with. I can tell you that already. Look, I've got 4 squares, rectangles on it, and none of them are going to be what I want it to be. All right, is that going to be good? No, it's going to, yeah. Okay, they're not terrible, but they're not really cohesive. I mean, I like the one on the far left. The other ones to me look like a jumble, but I will make it work. And I really don't have that many pieces left over, so I'm just going to try to finish these couple, and then I'm going to put the pieces in a bag and save them for the next time I am doing card making. So let me show you all of the cards I made. I think I ended up with 19, which that number drove me crazy, so I had to make one more. So that's all I have in scraps. Yeah, these didn't turn out great. I like that one. Again, some are simple, some are more complex. So tell me which one was your favorite. I think it's important. I think what makes these cards work is to have a good focal point. So if you don't have any of the ephemera left from a collection, get out some stamps and color something to coordinate what you're working with, even if it's just a simple flower. This was the last one I made, so I have 20 cards using all my scraps from my 6x8 paper pad, and that is a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.